The question is, do I still want to return to Nigeria, having been living in abroad for quite some time now? That aside, do not blame some Nigerians who go to work and would freely open their mouths to the foreigners, letting them know that they wouldn't want to return to Nigeria again, especially those ones who are relatively new in the Western countries. They like to say things like this. I've watched them, I've heard them, speak down on Nigeria, which is, they have the right to express themselves, talk about their country and all of that, because there is this general notion that do not let Nigeria happen to you, or Nigeria has happened to someone. In the case of Sommie Somtochukwu Maduagwu, the British-born Nigerian journalist, a lawyer as well, that recently passed on the 29th day of September. She could have stayed back in the UK because some people argued that she doesn't have British citizenship. No, that she was born in the UK in 1995, studied law in the UK. But how did you know that she doesn't have a dual citizenship? Just hear the young lady talk about her dual citizenship.
For example, like me, I have dual citizenship as well. I'm British and I'm also Nigerian. And even though I identify more with my Nigerian side, if I wanted to compete for Miss Universe Great Britain, I would have every right to do so.
What other evidence are you looking for? She has dual citizenship, that of Nigeria and that of the UK. So by birth she was born here and she studied here. She studied her law here and then decided to go back to Nigeria because she believed in Nigeria, that Nigeria would become better again. She has a lot of parts to play as a young politician. She became interested in politics as well. And she talked about women, getting a place in the General Assembly and all of that. She's also a model, an intelligent young lady. But then, should I be in the league of people that say that Nigeria has happened to someone, or do not let Nigeria happen to you? Anyway, hear that from one of our famous Nigerian politicians.
Even without having been told that she's a victim of Nigeria. Yes, Nigeria happened to her. I was reading on my way here, I've not confirmed, that they robbed every flat in that building. They called the police. Police did not show up until after she had jumped out of her window, gotten injured, and had no emergency support. She was found alive by the police, but when she asked to be taken to the hospital, the police said they had no fuel in their car. Maybe, if the police had not allowed their car to be stolen by thieves, maybe that car could have helped her to get to the hospital. Exactly. Who knows? Exactly true. So, yes, there's a fundamental problem here.
You can imagine, this is the constant report we usually get from our Nigerian police department all the time. They are always running out of fuel in their vehicle. This is like a fire service company, claiming that they do not have water in their tanker when you call them for rescue operation at that midnight. Is it not high time that our policemen should constantly, especially those working at night time, even during the daytimes, should be able to fill their tank, even have a reserve in case of emergency situations as this? Meanwhile, our able police commissioner, when he was interviewed by the Arise TV anchors, said something entirely different. Listen to him.
But they said they called the police. The robbery happened at around from 3 a.m. But the response time of the police was appalling. What's supposed to be the response mechanism by the Nigerian police?
Thank you so much, Rufai. See, the situation is this. When we are talking of response time, it's a function of several factors. All right? When was the call made to the police? Where was the location of the police team as at that point in time? What is the proximity? What is the nature of environment we are contending with? Okay? These are the factors that determine what time the police will arrive there. Okay? Take note. These are developing areas with streets that are not numbered. It's happening in so area. You need to place this one on the Google and see how you can navigate to that environment. These are things that determine when the police will get to that location. I think as at that point in time, the police got to that place 20 minutes after 3.
There was something the police commissioner stated, that when the police arrived, they found her lifeless body. So she was already dead. The people there were actually waiting for police to arrive before they could touch her or take her to the hospital. This was entirely a different report by Ojineka Ojekwe, one of the famous Arrive TV's anchor. You might also hear her own account.
I reached out to our correspondent in Abuja, who detailed the circumstances surrounding her death. She jumped down from her home when she heard about 14 armed robbers came to her home. And she did not die on the spot, Dr. Bati.
She went to the hospital and she was rejected. And I'll tell you the name of that hospital if you can continue with your thoughts. I'll bring.
Guys, the contradictory reports from all the parties in this case is something that wouldn't help to do a subsequent proper investigation when something like this occurred in our country or anywhere. Look at it, the police. If you listen to that news in full, the police claimed, especially the commissioner, that the police arrived 20 minutes afterwards to the scene of that event, claiming that, it all depends as to the time when the police was called, what the police was doing as at that point, where the police, that the location was in the outskirts of Abuja, village area, forgotten the name of that place, so it all depends, that the police got there at about 20 minutes after when they were called, and then they found the lifeless body of Somi. On the contrary, Ojineka and a whole lot of others also reported that they took this young lady to the hospital and she was rejected by the hospital. Not this young lady alone. Remember, according to the police and all other reports have also found that they have 2 security guards in that compound. Only one of them attacked the robbers, and then he had a gunshot. He was shot. And he was also taken to the hospital alongside Somi. Unfortunately, they were rejected, asking for ID card. The issue of this ID card and registration in our hospitals in Nigeria is something that our government should look into. In abroad, it is always easy. They are more developed, no doubt. But once you get to the hospital, even while you are being treated, they would start treating you right at the scene of that accident or incident. I have witnessed one in the past, an accident right at the front of my street. I didn't hear the sound or noise because the houses here, they are soundproof at times. So when I came out, I saw a helicopter already on my street, treating the patient while they are making contact, trying to move the patient from that scene. They were already resuscitating, doing checks and all of that. Did they ask that person his or her name? I think alongside this should be when they would then ask, what is your name and your date of birth? Immediately you say these 2 things. If I say your date of birth, they will use it. Everything about you would come up on their system. It's just enough. Nobody will say, pay 500 naira to open register or for registration. Where is your ID card and all of that? Those things don't make sense, especially during an emergency situation as that. You saw someone bleeding and dying, you would begin to say, go get ID card, go bring this, register, open register. Our healthcare workers should be kind enough to save life first. That should be the priority, which is the major oath they took as doctors and healthcare workers. Not just to leave the person in demand for something that doesn't make sense. No, you would not at first know the status of anybody, especially a victim of such circumstance, if the person is willing or has the resources to pay for the hospital's bills or not. That shouldn't come in first. At least render a first aid treatment if you cannot, than just rejecting somebody in their need of treatment, asking the person to go get those things that don't even make sense. There has been some situations whereby people were not able to pay for their hospital bills and they were asked to stay back, do cleaning job at the hospital until they were able to raise that money. Yes, so why not consider these things? If someone is not able to pay, keep the person back at the hospital. your most priority, something that you should drive joy from should be the fact that you have saved life. The person should stay back, do cleaning for you, But I know that everly people will rally around to rescue their loved ones from the hospital after you have saved a life. In general, should I say that Nigeria has happened to this young lady? Well, Nigeria may have happened to her. Why? Because I know that crime happens everywhere, even here in the UK. You cannot predict what would happen next. You have seen videos of attacks in London on the street. You are making calls, somebody will just snatch your phone. These things happen, by killings and stabbings. They are common in London precisely. So London could as well happen to anybody living in London. In that case, Nigeria has happened to this young lady, not just to her alone. How about the security guard that lost his life? Remember, that one is newly married, they said, with just one child, I think. The man died. Nobody is talking about this security guard that attempted doing his work in order to save the people he was watching after, but then he lost his life there because of the inefficiency of the healthcare services in our country, even the police not showing up on time. Nobody is talking about this man. May his soul and the soul of Somtochukwu Sommie Maduagwu rest in peace. Amen. May God grant their families the grace to bear their loss. So guys, Nigeria failed the tenants living in that compound because they paid for their rents. Yes, and they were relaxing in the place where they were paying for. All of a sudden, about 15 armed robbers attacked them in their comfort zone where they were paying for. And our security force, which is the police, when they were called, they began to come up with stories about their vehicle not having fuel and blah, blah, blah. And they claimed the commissioner led here. It's very much appalling. It is terrible. These are the people that are known. What if Somi was not living in that compound? This probably wouldn't make the news today. Yes, this is making the news today because a prominent personality, the young lady who was just 29 years old, an Arise TV anchor, a lawyer and a journalist, a British-born Nigerian, was living in that same compound. A lot of these incidences are happening everywhere. Our people are dying everywhere. In the northern part of Nigeria, in the eastern part of Nigeria, in Lagos, in Abuja, where we have the Federal Capital Territory. Yet a lot of these crimes are just happening everywhere in our country without being accounted for. And tomorrow they will come up and say Nigeria has over 200 million populations. A lot of people are not numbered. They don't know about them. Yet, common health care in a hospital in Abuja, they don't have a database where somebody could just walk in and say their name and date of birth. They should be able to get all the details about that person. A hospital in Abuja, for that matter, our federal capital. It's a big shame. It's a big shame. We are not talking about the rural communities. Time has come when the Commissioner for Health or Minister for Health should propose that hospitals in our country should have this database. Yes, they should have it. What's all of that they ask for? Deposits in Nigeria. That is the craziest aspect of it. Anyway, guys, I don't know what you think about all of this. The contradictions in all the accounts, the police commissioner stating otherwise, that they came, they met the lifeless body of Somi, and then Ojideka also stated that Somi was taken to the hospital and got rejected. Not only that, she got rejected because they were asking for a means of identification, Somi and the guard in the house that died. A whole lot of accounts that didn't really add up. That means no proper investigation will be made. I doubt they would even watch the CCTV if ever that compound has any, but it should have one in that compound. And even if a detailed investigation is carried out, would they tell Nigeria their findings? They wouldn't come up to tell us what they have found, since there has been these atoms of contradictory lies. So I don't know what you think about all of this. Yes, about 90% of Nigerians living in the Western world are sincerely happy to return to Nigeria no matter what. Just that their problem is this: how could we work so hard in the Western country, built those mansions back home? Sometimes most of us would return home and still go to hotels to pay. You are running away from insecurity issues, and you are running away from attacks from women. Juju, you don't know whom you are hiding from. Evil people, physical witches and wizards, and the spiritual witches and wizards, and then the insecurity in your home country. These are just many problems why a lot of Nigerians are struggling, battling on whether to return home or not. As for me, I was in Nigeria last year and I would always visit. God above all their powers, we will keep living and surviving. Leave your comment in the comment section. Like this video. Subscribe if you haven't. See you again in my next upload. Bye for now.